Scott McCloud was there. Jeff Smith was there.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was.
I couldn't, like, I had so much going on yesterday. I wanted to, like, make it there, but, you know.
And we just luckily finished the free, or we got the free shuttle over there.
Hi guys, how's it going? Just bring this in case you're like, where am I? Who is this? Yeah. How are you guys all doing? Is this day? Are you so tired?
A little bit.
You're not. God bless. I was like, if you wanted to snap, I won't tell anybody. If we just want to silently stare at each other, like I'm down. Whatever you guys need. Like, so we can just pretend we did this interview.
This time?
Yeah. You could
All
say
right,
hi.
so what was the inspiration for bringing Wynonna Earp back and in this format?
Well, they just can't kill this thing with fire, my friend, honestly. And like, what a great problem to have, though, right? Definitely in this day and age, not complaining. We've been off the air for 3 years, but I think we have such a passionate fan base, right? Very visible fan base, the Earpers. And I think even more so than when we started, TV has become more fragmented. Storytelling has become more fragmented. So having a built-in audience that will show up is smart. Is like, and Audible actually approached me. They said, we would love to do some Earp stories. And it was about a year ago. And at first I was sort of hedging my bets because I knew we might have a movie coming. And I wasn't sure if they wanted a season 5, sort of a continuous storyline. But when we came up with the anthology idea, I was like, oh, that appeals. We can tell stories we never got to tell. Oh, whose pen do you think that is? We got to tell stories we never got to tell before, fill in some plot holes, maybe take some B characters and give them A stories, like go back in time, like do things we never would have been able to do on the show. So that was what was so appealing with the Audible project.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious, what was sort of the thought process or inspiration to have Wynonna and Doc really be like the core narration of the story, and like what kind of led you to make that decision?
It actually was a little bit late coming to it. So oh, I'm so sorry. There was an earthquake. So we were a little bit late coming to the idea of Wynonna and Doc being the narrator. It just seemed like because we were doing different tales, we needed to really kind of ground everything and have Wynonna's kind of like set the scene, so to speak. And also that speaks to the fact that I'd never written for an auditory experience, so I didn't trust myself entirely. Plus Melanie is like friggin' hilarious. So she's just such a good like introduction to every story, kind of like tip and tail. And there's something nice about her, kind of like a little bit our town, like looking back on the people she loved who were left behind, and kind of like just letting you know it was all okay, that these were going to be a good time, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. So you learn and decide you're doing this audio format. What is the first grand idea that you knew that you could never put in a visual format that you were like immediately, I want to do this?
Well, I am on a beloved genre show that has a budget. It is a Canadian show. God bless. You can see the zipper up of the werewolf costume sometime. So the most appealing thing to me when I realized it was exactly that we were not constrained by budget. So there's one episode that takes place on a plane that's about to crash. Not in a million years. I don't even think we could have a plane on the ground, like not even a helicopter. So that was amazing. We go back to the Old West, and there's like basically a mystery that happens on a train. Again, incredible. All you need is a train whistle, it turns out, which is pretty great. We have someone possibly turn into a giant. So, you know, that's very hard unless you can afford Godzilla budget, which we can't. And again, it was just really playful to kind of not be constrained. It felt a little bit like animated does sometimes in that sense, but it was still important to ground it in what makes Earp Earp, right? Like all the character moments, all the beloved relationships, all the quips, all the, you know, feels. And so we knew we had that as an anchor, but definitely the plane was pretty cool. Yeah.
Going off that a little, I wanted to ask about just coming up with the ideas in general for like the episode and the storylines. What was that experience like, really getting to work on the stories?
So we have a pretty beloved board of writers, so it was fun. We kind of got together and everybody did some pitches. It was easier once I figured out it was going to be anthology, to be honest. Like I think than doing a season, just because I wanted to protect that. Look, when you have a passionate fan base, they are always clamoring for more, but they will also tell you what you missed, what story you didn't tell. For example, we have one story, there's a time jump in the show where someone goes into a magical land, so to speak, and they're missing for 18 months. So there's another character who's stuck at home for 18 months not knowing if they're alive or dead. So being able to tell that story in one of the audibles about what happened to that character and their trauma and how they sort of cope just felt like I knew the fans would love it. They would love answers to that stuff. So it almost bridged the gap with fan fiction a tiny bit, except we were able to make it canon, right? Which is incredible. So, and I'm not always able to read fan fiction for legal reasons, but I'm certainly aware of what's out there for sexy reasons. I wish I could. I'm glad it exists. Yeah, but yeah. Thank you.
So were you in the, I guess, studio while the actors were, performing?
I was, and one thing Audible did, which was incredible, which was really important to them, which was they flew everybody in to be in the studio together. And the director insisted. He said, "There's just something in the spice and the feeling of when the actors are able to look into each other's eyes the way they would on screen, right, on set, and having them be able to perform together made all the difference in the world. It felt more like watching a play, and I could tell they felt so much safer to play with one another." So it was amazing, and just watching how they developed the soundscape was great. The details were meticulous, like getting the right motorcycle sound and, making sure you could hear over it and all that stuff. But I know what I'm good at.
Were you there, like, on the back end where they were adding that stuff?
Oh, a little bit, and often they would send me stuff for approval, even things like the music and all that stuff, just the soundscape. So I definitely got to give notes. I would say it's a little less hands-on than I am on the TV show, though. I know my strengths and what I'm good at, but like these guys are experts at doing these kind of stories, and I was so impressed. Yeah.
Do you feel like, with this being a completely different medium, like an audio medium, sort of like the collaborative energy that you have had, like with the cast, for instance, like, do you feel like that was different or changed or more challenging or something like that,
right,
because of the medium that you're doing? Like,
I mean, I think from a writing perspective, it was incredibly intimidating, right? Like the truth about TV is it's show, don't tell. And this is literally tell, don't show, right? Which is hard. Also, we couldn't lean on their beautiful, beautiful faces, but you can close your eyes and imagine them. I think it's something we maybe couldn't have done in first season. I think the trust that was required to all get together in our sweatpants and kind of play off one another could only happen with a cast this close who trust each other so much. But they loved it. I mean, I'm sure when you talk to them, I hope they did, but they had such an amazing time and found it really freeing just to be able to use their voice. I think it's just a different way to practice their craft, right? In the same way that writing for it was so different. Yeah.
So I wanted to, and asking Matt this too,
yeah.
I really wanted to hear from your perspective. Was there a kind of agreed upon canon visual for what was happening? Like the costumes or the stuff, did everyone kind of know what it was supposed to look like, or was that very like individual interpretation?
Like for the show?
For the audio.
For the audio? I mean, I think because it existed in TV form already, we kind of brought that aesthetic to it in our mind, right? Like, I can't speak to what they were wearing on set. You know what I mean? Nobody had makeup done. But,
I'm out.
Yeah. No, you gotta close your eyes and picture them. You can picture them naked. I don't care. Yeah, exactly. Definitely, I think so. But we just all know the show in our bones so much that I think there was a little bit of tentativeness at the beginning. Like, is this going to feel like the show or something different? But once we got going, no, it was the same old, same old. They almost forgot they weren't being filmed. Does that make sense? They're so familiar with it. So, yeah. Let me know if they disagree. And they're like, absolutely not. Yeah, exactly.
Besides the cast, I'm mentioning looking at the director and just what was that experience like getting to work with the crew on this audio?
It was amazing. Like, again, I know what I'm good at. I had never done audio storytelling before. So we had an incredible director named Casey Wayland who does a lot of stuff. He did the Buffy audibles. Yes, I know. So good, eh? I'd love to be on a fly on the wall for that one. He had such a light touch with the actors. Like, these are people who knew their characters, right? This wasn't like a brand new project. So he was very careful to kind of get out of the way and always give them like one for them, as we say, like a chance to play, a chance to improv, but then still make sure he got what we needed and what have you. And just his ear for it was so much better trained than me, right? Like, he could really tell just people are popping their peas or they're not getting it or they sound like they have a cold. Like, I think him just living in that space, it's like a muscle, right? He had it trained and I definitely didn't, but maybe next time I will. But the crew was incredible. Yeah. And the result is beautiful. It's amazing. It makes you feel like they're right in the room with you. Maybe that's terrifying. Yeah.
What do you hope to bring? I mean, the Wyatt, the Earp mythos is,
Yeah.
I mean, you have Sue O'Brien who played Wyatt
Oh,
Earp,
of course, yeah.
and then you have Ken Smoke.
Yeah.
What do you hope you were able to continue to bring to the Wyatt Earp family legend?
Amazing question. It's very intimidating, and certainly with casting, like you think even about Doc Holliday, like Val Kilmer as well, did one of the most like iconic portrayals of Doc Holliday, right? But what you're looking for is not imitative, right? You want someone to show up and make it their own. And I genuinely think Tim Rozon is the greatest Doc Holliday who ever lived, and certainly the best mustache, which he grows himself, which he will tell you. I think one thing we do on the show that's kind of interesting is the idea of heroes. What makes a hero? What if you had an ancestor who was a famous hero, but what if you knew they were flawed? They were a human being. Like the whole thing about our show is that Wyatt Earp has sort of brought upon this curse on his family. So now his family is forced to keep fighting demons, right? So even though the world sees him as one of the biggest American icons of all time, he was still just a man who made mistakes. And now someone else has to pay for those mistakes. I think like heroes are often the people who live to tell the tale, right? They get to tell the tale because, and however they want, because they won, right? Winners are the ones who get to write history. So I'm kind of interested just in the idea of even heroes are flawed, and also anyone can become a hero, whether they think they can or not. But boy, I love Westerns. Like there's a reason we come back to the genre over and over and over again in so many different ways, whether it's horror or cowboys versus aliens or what have you. There's just something about that American myth and making your own way in a wild world that I think we all can relate to and aspire to. Maybe not the scurvy, but the rest of it, yeah.
What I'm kind of curious about what is the production timeline like? How was it different here versus making like a season?
Yeah. I mean, it is a little more leisurely, to be honest. Like if someone needs 50 takes in an audio setting, you can do it, to be honest. I mean, sure, your budget is still, you can't tape for 50 days, but it did feel a little more relaxed. And I think you felt that in the performances versus, both with the writing and the acting on a set. I'm with you, girl. You got it. You're so close. No. Yeah, you're definitely always under the gun, right? Like I say, writing for a TV series is almost like writing for a newspaper. Like if I'm sick, it doesn't matter. People on set need something to do the next day, even if it's a solid C-. We got to churn something out. And same, if these guys have food poisoning, they still got to make out with the person next to them or whatever. So I think this felt a little more relaxed. Also, like you kind of show up in your own clothes. I wonder if because of that, though, it took a little minute to get into character. You're not kind of going through hair and makeup and wardrobe. You're kind of in your own sweatpants, and then you're being Wynonna Earp, right? So it was more leisurely and more relaxed, but it ultimately felt kind of magical because of that. Yeah. Thank you so much, you guys.
Yeah.
You're almost there. I believe in you. Oh my God.
It's
No.
such a long
I was
day.
up since 5 a.m. So I went back, lie down in all my makeup and woke up. No, you guys have a great Comic-Con. Thank you so much, you guys.
Yeah.